Yo, what's up guys? New Siege video. I haven't been doing Siege videos for a little bit, so in this one, I actually recorded most of the Siege, so I recorded the last 3 Sieges. Gonna go over them and just talk about them and just look at the defenses. I'm gonna skip through, like I'm actually gonna watch all of it, but I'm gonna skip through like the offenses that are just super obvious, like the Fenyang, Alaya, those kind of things. These are pretty obvious as well, but pretty fast still. I am still looking for a better replacement than Farad. Farad did make me lose here and there in... Well, it made me lose one in the inter-server guild battle thingy, which was kind of annoying. I was like, yeah, that's the annoying thing. Like, if things start proccing out and you don't do enough damage, or maybe I should just up the damage on the Farad. That could also help, but in most cases, the team still works. And we have been seeing a lot of those Miang, Asher, and Kiglets. I would say that there's a bunch of bruiser options, but this is easier, right? Just loosening them, and then everything is dead. I like that. Next fight is a team that we see from time to time, which is the Gelnir plus double twins. And I would say if you have a very tanky shaman, you can probably get away with this, and then you work towards double, or like one sleeper and then a damage dealer. Your damage dealer also should have a heal block, so I would say Vigor is pretty much a very good slot in this. Maybe I should have started hitting the other one first, because that one always goes for the shaman rather than this, but if you put some decent damage to it, it's pretty fine. And from here, you probably know like it's an easy cleanup. The main thing is that you need that heal block to actually clean up, because otherwise killing that Gelnir might be an issue. And of course you have to keep in mind that you have to go for destroy as well, otherwise like even with just that, like you can see that this takes like pretty much forever. I also just played it on auto pretty much, I think. So next fight up is one of those teams where I go in with the Fenyang. Actually, I have this whole team 3 times right now. I don't have my 3rd Fenyang skilled up yet. I don't have my 3rd Alaya skilled up yet. But I have 3 of this right now. And this is actually one of my most used offenses right now. Especially with the Miang meta. Miang is just super hard countered by Leo and Fenyang in general. So yeah, I can build a lot more of this. This is a little bit boring for Siege. It is, I would say so, but... yeah, that's definitely something that I'm gonna be using a lot more, and I have some upgraded runes for this. I just have to get the grinds, but I got a quadro on the slot 5 defense Fio for this Fenyang. So I can even make this Fenyang more defense and more damage and more like that, but just gonna need the grinds for it. But that thing will have pretty nutty runes. Well, it already has pretty decent runes. Like, it's plus like 2700 defense or some bullshit like that. Could definitely get better artifacts. So that's definitely something I'm going to be working on the moment we get the Abyss artifact dungeons. Which I'm not entirely sure when we will get those. But I guess we will get those pretty soon as well. But we know we win this, so let's skip on to the next. Next one is also a team I use quite a lot, if not most. Well, I would say I use this most of the time as well. I do have a second Camilla right now. I do not have a second Belial, but you can definitely pull this with other units than Belial as well. In this case, it was a little bit tricky, I would say, because of the Celia. So into a Celia, maybe this is not the best of units to use. And because the main thing is you want to have your Belial dying first. So if they start focusing something else than your Belial, you're kind of in an annoying spot. And the Windy might take some damage here as well. Camilla isn't that great into dots. And the thing is, Camilla's, at the moment it's healing the Belial, you're healing that little bit chip damage, which really isn't that much, and that's kind of fucking you up. But the good thing about this team is you don't really need the Windy. Like, you just need the Windy against certain teams, but against this team, you don't need the Windy at all. And the thing is, the moment I kill one, it's already near impossible for him to kill me pretty much ever, because they will crit from time to time. They still have crit rate, so this team is just like super nasty throughout. And yeah, you see how that works. It's just waiting for the Belial to get the skill back, and then we go in for another hit, and then from there you actually get a killer. But as you can see, even though that the Celia has Destroy, I think, it's not really doing anything. Like, it's too hard to kill a Camilla. And that's how that works. Next fight, well, back with Elias, also against a very typical defense. You can have these as Leo, or like the Leo counters, where both of them are very high on attack, which is actually pretty interesting. This one death broke my Leo. And I don't see that happening all too much, that they death break my Leo. However, Leo is the easiest one to die from this unit. I would have to change my Leo probably to... It's currently like a defense crit damage HP build. I would say that a defense crit rate HP would probably be better than crit damage, but I don't have good crit damages or crit rates on like just a build that would kind of fit for this on Vampire. It's currently Vampire Destroy still. Might switch it to Vio, but as you can see, Fenyang is currently that broken that it doesn't really matter. Like, as long as the Fenyang doesn't die, I am in a good position to win. I even had matches here and there where the Fenyang died and the Leo was able to clear up because it was crit damage, but I haven't seen that happening too much these days. It's mostly the Leo just dying and then going from there. But yeah, I was called out to hold, so that's where that one ended. And then we have something that we see a lot on backline these days. It's not really a frontline defense anymore. This used to be frontline meta. But in this case, I went for the Samath that I have in RTA, which is pretty much my Lucian set plus a Nemesis set. Which does kind of work for these kind of scenarios as well. And that's a good amount of damage for Samath. Like, if you're wondering about the runes, it's just my highest Lucian runes. That's pretty much just that. And yeah, that kind of works, and then that does do a lot of damage, I would say. Going back in with my typical team. Well, the typical team, the thing is, if it's full on will, you could have issues with the Robo not stripping and then pushing up the Tian Lang and that kind of stuff, but it's somewhat rare to happen, and therefore I don't think this team is that great. And then it's just pretty much easy cleaning up things, clearing things. It works. Well, back with a Fenyang team. It's the same Fenyang team that I showed before against the exact same team as this before, was it? No, it was a Wusa in there before, but Leo doesn't really change anything too much on this. Wait, no, I used the Camilla team last time. Yeah, I would say that the Fenyang team is stronger against this. It's a little bit annoying if he keeps getting a lot of those sleeps in and that kind of stuff. Ooh, is this the position where my Fang died? No, my Fang didn't die here. Yeah, Fang could die here, but it is somewhat rare to have it dying, and yeah, that's an option. Just straight up kill yourself on defense buffed Fang. Yeah, that's this Fenyang is so broken, man. I have no clue why they had to up the damage for him or like up the defense for him. It's, you know, we're gonna win this, so we're gonna skip on to the next because, well, it's just too impossible. He had a chance to kill me with that Carcano high damage on wind, but yeah, most of the time it doesn't really work. Next team, team I should be using less. I had a fill with it more recently, but in most cases, these teams are so specifically tuned to where it's very predictable of how much speed they have that this team still becomes usable. But annoying thing for me is every time that I switch my defense, it's taking some runes from these ones, and then I have to re-rune this one as well, and then just the re-runing, like I have so many defenses running right now, and then every time I have to re-rune so much, it just gets so annoying. But this team, it's still pretty nice. Like, if you have a siege that the win doesn't matter that much, I can definitely get away with using this. However, I also tend to use it in other sieges too, where it's more depending on armor. And then it's less recommended to use it. So another team that I can build two of completely right now, but I'm definitely not going to showcase this because it's just super boring. Thing is about this team, you cannot really kill you. You have too much to strip over there, and therefore you will end up with a victory. It's just very simple, very straightforward. Another Lucian team, yeah, we're seeing more net force that I would say are Lucian-ish food. You could say that we have like a 115 base on the Asher, but you could make Asher go for perfectly high on the S2 right now as well, which does help out a little bit. So you have a few factors to it where I would say that the team is improved and you can't Lucian all of them. But I would say it's still pretty doable. This team is somewhat tricky because if the Klet does decide to reset the what's this thing called? The Belial. It will take you a little bit more time to actually go for the kill over here. I was deciding, like, could I go for the kill over here? Probably can. Nope, wrong choice. Because I knew this thing was gonna reset afterwards. But the thing is, if it resets afterwards, it's kind of the same thing as, like, longer in the fight. You're not fighting a 2v2 at that moment. But it's kind of the same thing where it doesn't really matter if it's reset or not. Because at some point, it's gonna pop up with the skill after dying twice. And as long as these units can't kill me, which I was pretty sure about that they couldn't, I was pretty much in the clear, because this thing will always crit something. It does have good damage on Camilla though, because it's mainly additional damage artifacts. But yeah, I noticed that this thing was pretty squish, and then you could work from there and then still get the victory that way. But is a Belial that great into a Klet? I wouldn't say so. So I wouldn't really recommend to use this, but you can get away with it, but you can see that the amount of damage that unit does is quite some. It's actually quite some. But yeah, from here it's just a pretty easy cleanup and we're good to go, right? So I've been doing a bunch of these, and the funny thing is, well, I kind of have faith in my units being faster than the enemy units, and therefore you can use Miang as a snipe unit, more or less. However, you have to land your armor break, which could be resisted here, but as you can see, the amount of damage that this does, it's like 15.5k, man, holy shit. Yeah, there's a lot of Miyangs everywhere, and I would definitely say that this is the meta right now. I would say that for tournaments, a lot of these kind of teams will be popping up as well. Pretty curious. Let me know in other regions, like what is because this is what we see in Europe a lot, like exactly this team, the Miang with the Klet and the Asher. Let me know in other regions if you guys have the same defense or also same offense. I guess. I guess not that many people use this on offense. I just use an offense because it's good route. But let me know in other regions if you also have like this kind of defense or you have different Miang defense. Pretty curious about that. Because, well, in this case, they have the Leo May. I think the Leo May is worse than the Asher. The Asher just provides a whole lot more. But yeah, as you can see here, I missed the armor break, still nearly kills because of just the speed buff with the damage. And if he would have placed a shield or even healed, wouldn't really have mattered. And also that one does do a good amount of damage, but this thing is both high damage and tanky. So therefore it kind of works out to abuse them like this. Yeah, these teams, the Miang is just like a Teshar in net 4, right? Like you don't need any crit rate, it still crits. Pretty strong, pretty strong. So we're seeing a whole lot of these Miyangs, and I can't hit them on the way that we bruiser them because that is something that is not shown so far what we have. But I would say we have like a good amount of like 5-6 bruiser options against this team too. And also other cleave options. So I think people are getting used to this team as well. But it's still a pretty interesting team to see the Miang and Klet together. It brings that a lot of RNG factor in there. But this is one of those matches that I'm gonna skip because I've been fighting this like tens, thousands of times. I really think that Miles doesn't deserve a spot on defense simply because the Miles in this specific team will always hit the Alaya. Therefore, Alaya will always have max stacks and also be the lowest on HP, most likely. So, because of that, the Carcano's not going to do anything, the Beta's not going to do anything, nothing is going to do anything. Carcano's trying to hit anything on 100 resistance, which is not going to do anything. We have the force skill of the Alaya coming up every time. So this would only work if you're out of Leos, I would say. But even then, it's pretty weak. So that's just pretty easy wins throughout. This one was a little bit interesting. I haven't really used this offense yet, but in this case, it was just like, okay, I'm gonna have the Shaman on a very high tanky set. And then afterwards, I have faith in the Bomber and mainly the Monkey on killing all of this. And the Monkey is on my RTA build, so if you haven't seen that yet, that's my RTA build. That is pretty freaking strong most of the time. And then we just have a bunch of bombs. And I actually forgot that that one cleanses of the bomb. Should have remembered that, but not really an issue in this case. You also don't want to do S2 because that's not healing. That is actually killing yourself even more. But yeah, and then the John was, I think, on the build that I used for RT or for Arena as well. No, it was slightly different, but it was kind of similar in the end. So then the siege of the day, this was a siege against Squad 0, and I think I can showcase most of the match. They had a pretty interesting idea with a Dominic next to a Tianlang and a Miang. Definitely something that I would say is pretty strong. In this case, that didn't work because you have glancing, so it's a 100% chance to not land. But yeah, this is definitely a team that I would say drains your Camillas quite a lot. Like I still think Camilla can kind of tank this, even though this hit on armor break branding is a lot. But the moment that I get my skill off over there, then it's pretty much just a done deal. And there's no way he's coming back from that. But I would definitely say it's an interesting team. That's definitely something that I would be seeing as a strong contender that we would see a lot more. But after you kill that one unit, it becomes a lot easier. They also had the Miang, Klet, and then a kinky version. But yeah, that's just straight up food to TWL. Because the main thing is, the only thing it can armor break is the Tetra. But Tetra will shake it off because of Nemesis. And therefore this whole team just pretty much doesn't do anything and it becomes like super simple. And you totally know how this ends up. This team doesn't do all too great. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so in this case I kind of risk it. It's a Miang, Klet plus a Tianlang. Yeah, this is where those points are at where I would say like, yeah, I shouldn't be using this team. So we have a first skill over there. That's pretty high damage on that unit right away. In this case, I was okay, that unit did a lot of damage, so let's get it killed as well. Did proc out on the Tianlang over there, that doesn't really help all too much. But I think we still, like, the 2v3 on this team is still pretty strong, especially if I get a few Despair Stunners. But he get that armor break over there, pretty high damage over there. In this case, should I actually have killed? Yeah, I went for that one. I forgot that I don't have 100 crit rate on that unit anymore, which isn't too great. I still have a chance to win here, actually, but if that proc happens, then the chances become very slim, and especially like this. So in this case, I could maybe still win this, but I would need a lot of Despair Stunners. That's a good Despair Stunner. But then he goes for a proc out of stun, and then an S1 into an S2, and that kills. So yeah, I probably should be using that team less. I should be using that team less. But then we have this one, and you can also do it with a Lulu and with a Tractor that is not 2-8. It's pretty much the same thing. This team with a Kinky is just not all too great. And we're just gonna skip forward to it because it's just boring as hell on that whole team, right? TL lengths without speed lead. It's something we tend to see a little bit more. I guess these units were somewhat swift-ish, but I don't really classify that as that great because it's somewhat easy to outspeed with not just this, but you can go for other teams to outspeed it as well. And I would say even the teams that we don't like to use, but a thing like a Gemini Leia plus a Kali would pretty much destroy all of this. That's as simple as this team would be. Just have to make it fast enough. They also had some Chandra Narshas, which I think in this whole meta where everyone uses as many Leos as possible, could be a Leo drain, but I don't think that this would be that great. Like, sure, the Chandra will kind of take care of the Narsha surviving for a little while, but yeah, literally the Narsha gets 2 hit. That's not really helping all too much, and then from there you kind of know how it goes, right? You just clear the Narsha. If there's a hog on it, you clear the Chandra first. There's not too much healing. Easy wins. Another fight, different Narsha team. This one was more of a counter to Leo's because of that Kamon in there. Definitely like this a little bit more. But the thing is, there's not too many form of strips over here. And because there's not too many form of strips over here, I was like, I probably can get away with doing this. In this case, I was like, oh, S1, I could actually kill it. No, you don't do jack shit damage on that. So that was maybe a little bit tricky. I should have went for the S3 because he doesn't really have strips. Kamon doesn't have strip on S1, right? I don't think so. It has the Oblivion. But the interesting thing is because he doesn't have any strip besides the Narsha, I think that Theomars is kind of not fitting in this spot. Like if the Theomars was something else that would have stripped, this team would be a lot better, I would say. But yeah, in this case, I was living with on the edge of health, and yeah, that's not really going to do anything right now. Because you can hit it as much as you want, but that's not going to kill that way. And we also have this skill coming back. Yeet! So yeah, double LD team. Don't use this team all too much, but this is definitely something I could be using more. The weird thing about the Dark Cassandra is that she kind of needs a second turn to do her full thing, unless you have some other boost for her. So with a Bastet in there, it kind of works, I guess. Then we have one of those teams. You see them a decent amount, the combination of Theomars plus Perna and then another unit. We have seen like Vigoros next to it, but yeah, for me, that's just Grogen food. Not really sure if you could clear it otherwise, but for me, definitely Grogen food. Then we had to fight that same team one more time, and I did know that it was off-willed on a bunch of units. I did not know that this Perna was so incredibly slow, because this Rika is like plus 200, so, or like 120 something. But I was like, this kind of works most of the time anyways. You do have the strip chances from both the Roll and the Perna. And that one also decided to go on the right element in this case. So that's not too great. Plus that stunner over there. Plus that stunner over there. So not too great as of a whole. However, we had to decide that the Wusa decided to be like, I'm Hathor. I'm Hathor today. I'm sleeping, everyone. That's how I like it. And yeah, I would say that this team is still pretty strong. It's one of those teams that's kind of fading away because there's not too much stuff you can use it into anymore. But if your Wusa decides to be Hathor, then it's just suddenly like, oh, yep, no, the team is actually still good. So in this case, we did have the dots in there. I kind of thought it would die to dots over here. But apparently the healing comes before the dots and it does actually survive. So that's annoying. Yeah, that's like, it's exactly the 15% heal. It goes up, it goes down. So it's like, okay, I actually have to kill it. But in this case, yeah, there's just too many dots on it. Rika's still very strong. Would this be the best team that I could use against this? I don't think so, but I would say that there's a whole bunch of options against this kind of teams. This was also more of a backline team, but wouldn't really classify it as that great. Like, Rahul's one of those units that you can put in siege defense, but it's really hard to fit him like into a good team. And then the final hit that I did, which is also the final hit for this video, and then we actually compiled 3 sieges in one. And I did miss a few hits here and there, which I wasn't allowed to show. But yeah, once again, the Fenyang team, as I mentioned before, I have 3 of them right now. So there's going to be a lot of those all the time in like all of the teams that I showcase. And yeah, that's just is what it is, because this team, I would say, is probably my most... Now, I would say that my Nefty's team is my highest success rate team. But for the teams that I'm spamming, this is definitely my highest success rate team, like throughout, like getting the most amount of wins. Because this team just pretty much doesn't fail. And that Nikki was healing for a lot. 27k heal on attack buff. Jesus, I want a Nikki. Nikki's so good. Nikki's also one of those units dodging like every balance patch. Like, it's such a strong unit, but it needs so much other stuff around it to kind of work, where it's not just the pure setup itself, that it's kind of dodging all kinds of balance patches and getting away with like being pretty freaking strong. So in this case, once again, like if my Leo dies, I really don't care too much. Like we've seen the Leo die time and time again. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, this is pretty much it for the video. Hope you enjoyed this style of video of showcasing a little bit more than just one siege. It's also pretty much mainly because of like the time frame. Sometimes it fits for me to do this. It also kind of depends. Like sometimes I record a siege and then just don't use it at all. Sometimes I completely think like, oh, I have so many videos, I'm not gonna record the siege, so I don't have the recording. In this case, I did record all of them. So yeah, let me know if you like this kind of style, and also let me know what kind of Mihyang teams do you see in your server. Guys, thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next one.